focus on the down-to-earth edition this time. The first thing is a very interesting topic, that's technology for using conservation of panchayat resources. So here, K. Kanchan, she is one of the Gram Panchayat Sarpanch, and the idea that has been brought is using voice messages from mobile. Now through this mobile app, if there is a water leakage, if there is an electricity dropout, all these messages come instantly. Wastage of additional water is prevented, any leakage of water is prevented, and using technology, a very good way is to conserve the water resources. An exceptional step taken by the Mukulam Gram Panchayat in Tamil Nadu. So this is one of the case studies that you can incorporate in your answer writing. The next is livestock diseases, two important diseases, lumpy skin and African swine fever. African swine fever has a very high mortality. It is a hemorrhagic viral fever which affects the boars and the pigs with 100% mortality. As the name swine, so swine relates to pig, so it's the African swine fever. There are 13 different kind of zoonotic diseases, 4 of which could be transmitted to human beings. Lumpy skin diseases has been one of the most vulnerable this time, and this has been affecting a huge lot of population of cattle. Nearly 2 million cattle got affected, and the mortality rate stood at around 0.1 million, that is around lakhs. So again, a very important concern. If we talk about India's picture, India has the world's largest cattle population of 303 million. The sector contributes to 4.3% of the gross total value addition. There are various domestic breeds of animals, cattle, buffalo, sheep, goat, horse, poultry, pigs and yaks. Now, according to the statistical offices, there are various farmers which are engaged with livestock production. There are various average monthly accounting for agricultural households. Then there are various diseases which are commonly seen in the population. So, anthrax, babyosis. Babyosis is which goes from mother to baby, is a very common disease in livestock cattle, and this was the year it was witnessed. So many of those are zoonotic in origin. Some of those like backwater, blue tongue are not zoonotic in nature. The species which are affected is again important. So enterotoxemia is affecting the sheep and the goat, swine fever affecting pigs, Trypsomonas affecting numerous other species as well. So there are various sources of sustenance, as we could see. Marginal farmer has a source of farming and crop production at an equal wage with farming as a major predominant source. However, for the large farmers, it is mainly the farming and less of the mainly it's the crop production and less of the farming of animals. So as you can see, if a disease affects the species, it's mainly the smaller, marginal and the sustenance farmers which are badly hit. There is a huge economic loss. It is indicated that there is an annual loss of nearly 56 crore each year from 4 major diseases. Those are pestis, rhamnitis, foot and mouth disease, hemorrhagic septicemia and brucellosis. This year itself, the loss from the lumpy skin diseases is accounting to nearly 500 crore rupees. The disease change, the climate change is affecting the diseases and the dynamics of diseases. The areas which were even free from any susceptible diseases are now being brought into this issue. The transboundary migration, illegal and informal trade with other countries is spreading the disease. For example, the porcupine reproductive and respiratory syndrome is affecting the pigs, mainly those pigs which are being entering illegally into India from China and Myanmar and the northeast borders. Similarly, MERS is the Middle East respiratory syndrome, and it is affecting the camels trespassing through Pakistan and India into the borders of Rajasthan and Gujarat. Now, climate change is affecting livestock in 3 ways. direct effect, indirect effect, and hazardous interface. So hazardous interface is the interaction of human and animals. Indirect is natural disasters, increasing parasites, increasing the extension of diseases and spread of diseases. Direct effect includes oxidative stress, immune suppression, and impaired reproductive systems. India is at a huge risk. Some of the common epidemiologic diseases, anthrax, as we could see, affects the lungs, skin, intestine, and causes bacterial spores, which when inhaled through contaminated meat can spread to humans. Babesiosis is life-threatening, parasitic borne, affects, transmits from mother to baby. Fascioliosis is again a parasite worm. It is acquired by eating the water cysts or the water plants. And then trypanosomas or sleeping sickness, which leads to fatigue, dullness, swollen lymph nodes, and is transmitted by testis fly. Vigilance is therefore needed. Disease modeling and prevention of disease control is a very important aspect. The toll-free helpline number 1962 is very useful for the same. Chronic floods have been threatening the Niger Delta. Now the Niger Delta, the delta is oil rich. There is lots of communities, and it is also one of the largest mangrove ecosystem of Africa. There are various communities, for example Arakoma community, which is in the oil rich state, and this is doing farming. Now with the floods, there are longer episodes of flood with climate change. This leads to more growth of cassava and plantains, but with the floods, these crops get destroyed. Again, there are various wastage management systems that needs to be incorporated. The next important cause of concern is the rising fuel prices. With the government's decision and rising energy cost, there is a very huge driver to consumer pricing, and that affects the system. The next is the Nobel Prize. Now 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics Peace have been given. So in physics for quantum studies, in US it's mainly for the modeling, then it's basically the molecular building and efficiency. For life sciences, it is for the living organisms and the genetics, the genome of hominin and human evolution. The French author Annie Ornex has been given for literature, and for peace it is the Belarus pro-democratic activists and the Memorial and Center for Civil Liberties for checking the human rights abuse. The next is bisphenol A very important chemical which is used for softening the plastic. Now this chemical reduces, or we can say, the fastens the life cycle of mosquito. This leads to a further rise in the population of the mosquito. Now when this chemical is ingested, the endocrine system gets affected, mainly the brain, the prostate glands, and this affects the cardiovascular system. So as you can see, when it is hatching, there is no effect of bisphenol, but the hatching time is reduced by 18 hours as the embryonic development fastens up. At the larva stage, converting into pupa stage, the time gets reduced by 15 hours because increase in the secretion of 20-HE, which is a steroid hormone, and phospholipase, which is A2 enzyme. However, changing from pupa to adult, there is no effect on the development. So two stages are affected, the larva and the pupa. Now just with these two stages, the life cycle gets into half the rate. Okay, so the life cycle fastens up. There is various presence of this compounds which is seen in higher use these days, and this is increasing the population of mosquitoes, ultimately leading to more vector-borne diseases in the region, along with climate change and its impact. The next is the organic reinforcements. Now this big basket is one of the company which has entered the Mahasura village in UP for procuring the organic perishables. It procures at 15% higher rate. So people are not ready to sell it in mandis now because the income from the vegetable gets doubled when they are selling it to the company, and numerous farmers have benefited from it. Now the major focus has been wheat, paddy, pulses and millet. However, they are now exploring avenues for vegetables and other organic trends. So companies' production is again being affected. The next is the analysis of various organic products and the capacity building. So here in this diagram you can see the areas for organic food and vegetables, and the brown one shows or indicates the staple crops. So from farm to fork is an approach where we have the harvested organic produce which is collected in the village, distributing centers where grading and packaging is done. There are dark storage which is used for delivery purpose, and finally taken to the government. The poor show against the poverty is again important to understand. The extreme poverty has been increasing. The poverty line is $2.15 per day according to US, and 9.3% of the world population fall below it, which has increased from 8.4%. The recovery rate for the poverty is still low. The poorest people have the steepest cost that they are supposed to bear for the pandemic, and their income losses are around 4% of the poorest 40. So again, a very high detrimental impact that is seen. The next is India records 6% of the rainfall from 1st June to 30th September, and on the last day itself there was extremely heavy rainfall which affected most of the areas. 3 districts of the state recorded more than 10,000% rainfall in just 24 hours on October 5th. There were sudden torrential rainfalls which were seen. Now, for the policy framework, there are various issues that have been brought. For example, the motor amendment vehicle says that now the cars must be fitted by 2 side-by-side torso airbags and 2 side curtain and tube airbags, which is important. Compressed biogas, coal, biocoal, ethanol and biodiesel is important. EV models for the city driving is again important. The next is 5G launch. Now with the 5G launch in India, if we go back to the history, South Korea was one of the first countries. Now there are 70 countries where it is available. India also launched it on 1st of October. Now this is one of the next industrial revolution. It would reduce the cost of the cost of internet along with the carbon emissions which are said to be there. Highest number of 5G patents are seen with Huawei, which is a Chinese company. So Chinese multinationals dominate this. Now they are opening it to other aspects. Huawei, Ericsson, Nokia are one of the leading developers of 5G technology and getting it approved. IIT Hyderabad has a 6G project in hand, and there are various patents which are granted for 6G to IIT Hyderabad for the same. So there are more than 20,000 patent applications around 6G technologies, and those have been filed by Japanese Institute. The next is crop simulation model. Now crop simulation model can forecast the climate impact on the farm yield, and this can bring in first of its kind of impact of hot weather on crop yield in Punjab and Haryana. India does not have a proper focus onto it. There are various things that needs to be checked into account. So ICAR, which is the Indian Agricultural Research Institute, using InfoCrop version 2.1 is using simulated models for the same. So crop info model or the InfoCrop model as it is called as has 85% accuracy, has various dynamic models like agrotechnology transfer model, which is for the decision support developed by United States. From Australia, it has a system simulated model for agriculture. The various crops which have been taken into account are 11 different crops. Wheat, maize, sorghum, pearl millet are some of those. There are 46 different countries including Argentina, Brazil and Bangladesh which have downloaded these models and working on it. Bangladesh has been demonstrating this use because the impact of climate variability and climate change is very severe. In 2004, the first version was launched, and then there have been various different versions that have come up. With the COVID pandemic, we have seen a significant rise in cardiac ailments. Nearly 15% patients with irregular cardiac functions have come up. Major diseases have been cerebrovascular dysrhythmia, ischemic, non-ischemic heart diseases, and heart failures, myocarditis. Blood clotting in the blood vessels have increased significantly. The rate for the stroke has gone up by 1.5 times for those who have been exposed to COVID-19. So the patients surviving from COVID-19 have seen a significant damage and impact on the heart and the related issues. Now, the possible causes are seen because there were pre-existing conditions and those have worsened up. The problems that the people have not been getting proper medical care. The follow-up has not been regular. Diabetes, hypertension, coronary artery diseases are some of the related things. Risk of high blood sugar and thyroid levels after COVID infection have an impact on the cholesterol mechanism, which also affects the cardiac function. So, if there is a very high sedentary life during the lockdown period, it has been affecting the lifestyle of a common people. The next is draft citizen policy on urban agriculture. Now, this is one of the policy recommendations by Delhi, aiming at holistic farming in the urban area. So, how the vacant agricultural land could be used, how could the market be created, what could be the various researches for the same. Similarly, Swaminathan Foundation has talked about 50% children and women affected by anemia in the urban area. In the urban area, the local food and nutrition conditions being studied by UNFAO. Similarly, hydroponics is one of the markets which have been studied, which requires 90% of the less water and is a good viable for urban areas. So within the urban areas, what kind of aspects and issues need to be taken into account? Urban farming, urban agriculture are some of those. The next is La Nina. Now La Nina, 3 regular years have witnessed La Nina, which have seen a significant impact. However, this had happened before 1950s only twice. This causes significant cooling of the South Africa, and there have been various modelings which have been affecting India as well, because the monsoon season gets prolonged during this time. Also, some of the other important aspects, one of the important ones is the Whale Conservation Institute, which conducts the autopsies of the biotoxins in the algal bloom or the red tides, and these are being consumed by the whales. So how they have been affecting or causing trauma in the whales is again an important aspect. The next is the aspirational net zero aviation goal of 2050 by the International Civil Aviation Organization, and China launching its solar observatory to study the sun's magnetic field. This would be nearly 720 kilometers above the surface of the earth and would always be facing sun to study the sun, one of its unique kind of solar observatory dedicated to study the sun's magnetic field. So those were some of the important topics that we have discussed in this edition. Definitely we are covering down to earth on a regular basis. Down to earth every time has around 4 to 5 questions for your UPSC prelims at least. So refer all the editions carefully. The handouts for the same would be available for free on Examrace, Examrace current affairs section. So don't miss those. Wish you very good luck, and for any queries or clarification, just post in the comment section below. Wish you good luck.